Hello, and welcome back to the Brighter podcast. My name is Chelsea.
My name's BatSheva.
And my life is extremely brighter thanks to BatSheva.
And my life is so much brighter thanks to Chelsea.
We love to come on here and share stories, tools, techniques, our experiences in hopes that it will help to uplift and brighten your day. And today, before we get into our topic, just like we do every episode, we're going to arrive in the space by taking a few deep breaths together. So if you're in an area where you can close down your eyes, I invite you to do that. If you're driving, please do not, or operating anything. And just go ahead and let all the air out, and then draw in a nice deep breath in the nose, filling up the belly, then the ribs, then the chest. And exhale out the mouth, chest, then ribs, then belly. Deep breath in, fully expanding, and exhale out. Let everything that's ready to go, go. Last one, deepest breath. And exhale. Wonderful. Today, we're going to be bringing you the subject of feedback and criticism. Can you take it?
No, just kidding. Sometimes.
Yeah, definitely sometimes. Before we got on here, we're kind of discussing, what that looks like for us. And I know that one of the big things for me is kind of where I'm at in that moment in time. Have I had a lovely start to the morning? What's the cosmos doing? What energy is floating around astrologically? Because a lot of the times I can read back and see that, oh, that makes sense. Or did I wake up late and I was rushed? Have I had a chance to get my morning routine in? Did I receive a text from somebody that wasn't necessarily something I wanted to hear or deal with? So I know that for sure for me, it's like, what state am I in at the moment? Like whenever I'm receiving the feedback or the criticism.
Hormonally, that's like another thing, like what cycle. And it doesn't feel, fair, but it's so true that it does depend on some external factors as far as like how resilient I can be in any given moment. And then there's the paradoxical, equal and equally true fact, which is I have so much more resilience than I used to have. And I'm working in a way with myself and with life to continue to build that inner sanctum and that the floor, the ground foundation of my inner resilience, so that when I get unexpected negative or critical feedback, even if it's expected, but especially when it's not expected, that's when it's often just pierces right through me. I've just historically my whole life been somebody that didn't have a thick skin, which led to so many different choices in my life, sadly, seeking approval and seeking out people who believed what I believed because I almost couldn't bear to hear criticism, giving up on professions and dreams because I couldn't bear, to continually put myself out there and get rejected, or hear criticism. And I would read about how important it is to be able to take it and, build that muscle and build the strength. But what didn't really happen for me, that inner building, until I think through my marriage, through having children, through getting older, just time. I don't know why it had to take me personally so many decades. Whereas now in my early 50s, I finally feel like, I wish I were here in my teens, like how I can handle criticism now, which is to say, it still fucking hurts when I get it. Actually, I have to be honest, I'm not yet at the place where I'm like, like it doesn't hurt at all. Maybe I'll get there soon, but I'm not there. But I'm at the place where I can rebound at least, like I can feel the feelings and then bounce back.
Yeah, for me, it also is like thinking about how much effort I've put in or, trying something new and I feel like, that's kind of at least what I've heard as far as, oh, like you're launching a business or you're doing this. And it's like some of the stuff that I've heard is just surround yourself with the people that like support you and uplift you throughout that, because like, it's fragile. It's a fragile little thing and you want to protect it. So I was just kind of thinking about like receiving some feedback over something that I feel confident about, or that I like don't really care what other people think, versus like maybe something new to me.
Yeah, that makes sense that you're more vulnerable maybe.
Yeah. Or it's like, I'm trying this, or I spent a lot of time on something, and then for someone to
Like what, Chelsea? For example, I know it's coming.
yeah, we'll just go ahead and share it. Whenever BatSheva and I were like first figuring out how to make tiles for Instagram and different social media posts and stuff like that, I have zero background of marketing, design, anything like that. And honestly, like computer stuff. But I was like, okay, I'm going to try and do this. And the first time that we did it, I just like made something and then sent it to her. And I asked for her opinion, but like, I guess I wasn't in the state to really receive it, because I was like, just like crushed, like, fuck, I just spent all this time and energy like doing this and it's not good enough. Like but then we just discovered that also another thing that I don't really care to do, so could have added to it, is like answer emails. And so like a back and forth of like me trying to fix things via email was definitely not going to be the way. And I could feel that like initial, like, I just spent this time and like, but then we just figured out that for us to to be doing it like together, like sharing the screen and doing it together, like that's what works for us. And so it's easy to receive the feedback that way for me. And I don't like take it personally. I don't care. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll just change it. We'll make it this. Or, we like come to an agreement on what we like. And also, I think another big thing is like being in person, or, like not in person, but via Zoom, and seeing the other person's facial expression and hearing their voice and like their tone versus like a text or an email. Because again, whatever state I'm in, like, I'm like had a tiff with somebody or like whatever, have had a little bit of a more challenging day. And then I open a text and it can literally just be like a sentence with like a period at the end. And then I like read it as like a bold statement. Like, so it's funny to think about those different things and how they all play factors in how we receive the feedback or the criticism.
Totally, because I just definitely did not have a clue that anything I said had any effect on you for like 2 to 3 days, because I just literally was so straightforward about it. And I didn't know that it was vulnerable for you, and you'd taken so much time and put that much effort and thought, had those feelings. And it took like a couple of days for me to realize that you had initially felt like a bit wounded by my directness. And it's so interesting for me to think about, because I know it's happened to me throughout my life where I myself have inadvertently hurt someone's feelings by just giving them direct feedback. And I mean, even sometimes as a director or manager in a big corporation, like where I used to work, I remember one young woman was in tears after I was giving her feedback. And I was so shocked because I thought I was just like sharing with her. And I endeavor to be more and more careful about that, like using a lot of positive feedback, a lot of, like you said, like in person or with words. But, if I have to type it, like taking extra time to make sure to first and I often have to go back and redo it, because I'll start with just like change this. And then I'm like, oh, whoa, like reread and like, okay, this works and this sounds good. And I like this. And in a way, so hypocritical, because I personally have my whole life, as I mentioned, like have felt so wounded by people's directness, literally. And it happens, especially my family. Of course, that's obviously where it was also modeled for me. Just like in particular, like let's say my siblings or like my father, like people would just like be so direct and just like like my heart has been like, you know, stabbed. And from their point of view, they were just like, you know, they had no clue whatsoever that it would have in the slightest hurt my feelings. It was like a huge dissonance between my experience and what they thought was happening. So it's just kind of interesting for me to admit and see that what I'm giving, I'm getting, and vice versa. And that whole merry-go-round. Not to mention, like, even as recently as last week, just like what you mentioned, when it's something new in particular, you feel more vulnerable. And as all the listeners know who've been following my nascent journey as a lead singer and songwriter for my beloved band, Girl Band USA, we've gone in just like a couple of short years from, you know, just like messing around to like having real professional gig. And now we're, you know, working to get those recorded and have some videos cut so that we can book additional gigs. And my father, who I already know and has been pretty blunt with me about how he does not understand my life. He doesn't understand what I want to do. He doesn't understand why I am prioritizing the things I prioritize, like the podcast, like the band, like creative projects that I'm doing. He's a lawyer and he's just in his world of like where I grew up in Washington, D.C., like very left brain, logical, kind of like traditional achievement tracks. That's what makes sense to him. And my life doesn't look like that to him. And so, you know, me being like back in the day, like the uber people pleaser and especially daddy pleaser that I was, and I've come really, really far from that. But still, you know, there's little bits and pieces that are knocking around inside, you know, waiting to be cleared and cleaned and released. And I had that opportunity just last week to actually release and clear some of that residue, people pleasing and hurt feelings from, you know, not being given the positive feedback and the admiration and support that I would really love to have, you know, especially from, I think, the people who we love and admire. I think obviously like we're more vulnerable to those people. And so long story short, I had a rough cut of one of the videos that's being edited of one of our live songs. And he has never seen us perform. And so I showed it to him. And there was a part of me that knew I was taking a huge risk with my emotions because I felt inside the like childlike part of me that wanted desperately his approval, his admiration. Like I was going into it, like you said, Chelsea, early on, how are we going into this? Like, are we expecting to get that positive feedback? Do we need it? Do we need the external validation? Ideally, no. But in this case with my father, I literally was feeling it, that I wanted it, which was ridiculously stupid because I should have known better. But like, again, I in retrospect, I understood why like it all happened because I really did feel like I actually cleared out like a good chunk of old kind of wounding in the end. But I had to go through the painful process of first showing him the video and then receiving feedback and criticism that I really didn't take too well internally. I didn't argue with him because that's not my style. Also, I kind of like didn't have the presence of mind. Like I might talk to him about it now that I've processed my part of it and just kind of let him know how it made me feel. In fact, I'm planning to do that. But at the time I was just like rattled. And he only had like sort of two things to say and neither of them were positive whatsoever. And they were sort of like dismissive. And that was it. And I was like, oh my God, like I wrote this song and I performed at this legendary venue. And I'm like, you know, living my dream. And instead I get like two dismissive comments. And I was hurt. I was so hurt. But as Chelsea knows, because I did wind up sharing this story with her, by the end of the day, I used different techniques like the daily W's with Chelsea, but also I used some tapping, I used some journaling, I used just some emotional release techniques just to allow myself to feel. I didn't have any like good girlfriend or, you know, like person available that I could just like share it with. That could have also just been a simple technique to help process those emotions. I didn't have that available to me, but still it really only took like the rest of that day. And by the next morning, I was like, oh, I know why I did that. And Chelsea, it almost reminded me of like that detox episode where if you guys heard that episode where we talk about the detoxes we were going through back in March, and I sort of like detoxed this old pattern of behavior that I'd had with my ex-husband, and I tell that story, I realized that I think I was like actually detoxing, like a people-pleasing, seeking validation part of me out. Because now I'm like on the other side of it, like, it doesn't matter. I really honestly, genuinely feel like I don't need to show him anything I'm doing. I don't need to. It's like, it's fine. He's living his life. I'm living my life. We do love each other. We don't have to understand each other. So it's like really, really interesting to me that that all happened in a way that I can day or two later, like really appreciate it for what it was, not beat myself up for being vulnerable and childlike and seeking attention. I don't at all. And instead, I'm just like giving myself love and compassion and also like, okay, yeah, I'm done with that. Like, done.
To be able to wake up the next day and already feel the shift. Wow, that is incredible. And so inspiring for me because I remember whenever you shared this and I was like, I don't know, it's like an aha moment of like, like every child, like all of our inner all of our inner children want to be loved and approved and praised. And like, I kind of had a vision whenever you were just telling that of like, the little kids that like dress themselves and then they come out and they're like so proud. And then like, there's usually one or two reactions. It's either like the parent like praising and like kind of like laughing in the background of like whatever they're doing, or the parent's like, no, you're not wearing that. Like, what the fuck were you thinking? And like, go change right now. And so it's just like, and like to feel like that pain of, they're just like so proud of themselves for doing something. And it's just, I think it's the same. Like, it's like we're 40 and 50, like it doesn't matter. Like we all want to feel that love and support and praise. And you're right. Like, we do the tools and techniques and work on ourselves so that we can rely like on ourselves and feel sturdy and strong and like not be affected as much. Or I guess it's like the bounce back maybe is less time. I feel like that's kind of like a big thing, with like meditation and all that, is that, you do it so that maybe something bothers you and you're like pissed about it for a week. But then like, the more that you're meditating and practicing, then like those same things, like, like it starts to lessen. It's like, maybe you're only affected for it for 5 days. And then it's like 3 days. And then maybe it's only just 1 day then. You're just like pissed for the day. And then eventually, it's like an hour, or, 5 hours or 10 minutes, or, someone says something and like, you're like, fuck that guy. And then you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm over it. And you move on. So I think that that's, strengthening the muscle of self-resilience, self-reliance, self-love, self-compassion, like being able to hold yourself and be like, oh, wow, that hurt. But, oh well, I like it anyways, so fuck them.
Totally. I love those analogies of this little kid. Oh my God. I really like had like flashbacks to that happening. And also exactly what you said, how like the more we do this work, that it doesn't seem so obvious 1 + 1 = 2, like meditate. And then like, it's not like so linear. But you and I are experiencing it. We're feeling ourselves becoming more resilient. And the other thing I realized when you were saying that too is the deep importance of surrounding myself as much as I can with people intentionally, with people who will support and affirm and praise and be the hype squad, and that's their default. Not that they won't tell you the truth. I want people around me who will deeply tell me the truth, and still that they're, a healed enough person that it's easy for them. It's their default to support and reflect, the good and what's going right. And I recognize that in my life, I've really pared back my community. I scaled it to 0 to my kids. And then since my divorce, and then I've been growing it like little by little by little by little since then. And I'm really fine with what I'm doing because I'm recognizing that's not the family that I was given. Now I'm creating the families that I want, families of, community and friends. And if it's a sort of therapist mentor figure, or if it's a friend like Chelsea or different friends. And even now that I'm starting to date, I went through a couple of really like weird, shitty guys. And then I was like, oh, that's what I want. Someone with emotional intelligence and care. And, I look at Chelsea's relationship with Hunter, and I mean, they're two real human beings, as in any relationship. But I will say, like, you guys fully support each other's dreams and who you are and what your heart's desires, where your hearts are leading you. And I feel like this is so important for us to intentionally do and insist upon in our lives, so that also, like you said, not just like our mood or the bad text we got or the thing that upset us, but like so that we have the positive support too, so that when that slings and the arrows hit us unexpectedly, that also is our resilience, almost like externally, but helping our internal resilience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It actually just made me think about a friend and I were talking yesterday, and we were talking about sharing whenever something goes really good for you and you're just like want to share it with somebody. And then it's like, oh, but you have to kind of think about who you're sharing it with. It's very similar, I think, to like feedback, because depending on where they are or, what their outlook of it is, you can be so excited. You just performed at the Mint. You did all these things. This is like milestones for you. And then you share it with somebody and they're like, what the fuck? And then you're just like, like spiral, like you just had your moment and it's almost like it got like sucked away. So she and I were talking about like being able to celebrate yourself. And yes, it's just like, and this is kind of where we are like, it's so crazy because like we are humans and we are connected and we love connection with each other. And, we are all connected. And so like having that connection and being able to share it, like I use the analogy that, it's like whenever you go to a concert and like all your friends are there and like they fucking rocked. And then like at the end of the show, you're just like looking at each other like, yes, like that was fucking awesome. And then you go home and you're like going over the set list and like all the things, like, oh, remember whenever they ripped like for, 20 minutes on this. And so it's like being able to relive that and have it, with people that are, if they're in the same elevated state that you were in, like maybe you have one friend who's like, I hated that fucking song, or like, and you're just like, well, whatever, and like, but there can be those people or that moment. And then it's whenever you experience something by yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, like I just had a breakthrough, or, or I just did this, coached myself through this, or, I just got this opportunity. And depending on who you share it with, like maybe they'll celebrate you, or maybe they're not in the space to celebrate you, or maybe like things are going really like not great for them. And then they're just like, they feel a different way, like that, and then they bring that to it. And so it's like, wow, like really thinking about supporting yourself, being able to celebrate yourself and also receive other things.
Totally. And also to be able to like not allow ourselves to go down rabbit holes. And, like I'm thinking about like more of a public figure someone is, the more open they become to just getting so much awful feedback and criticism, online or just from whoever and whatever troll, not to mention like actual fans who get disappointed. And I think in a way, I always wanted, to be like a famous singer and actress and all these things when I was younger. And I know it was a massive protection for me not to have achieved that goal, because I was not thick-skinned, as I said. And I think there's many people who, by their nature, they're a little more combative and they actually can get energy and feed off of like kind of fighting. And that's just never been me. And so I just can appreciate, what it takes to be out there. And I think like if I have the opportunity ever to get anything that I'm creating out there in a wider way, I feel like I would need to follow in the footsteps of some of my role models and just like not read the feedback, just literally not read it. Cause sometimes you just can't unsee things, and it's not like you said, we're working on the resilience and the bounce back also. And then also like trying to filter it so that we don't necessarily have to hear all the negative things. And then to your point about like putting it out there, that's such an interesting also twist on like this topic. But I wanted to add that I have a good friend who she's not on social media. And I was surprised, and she's a coach and she's a really good coach. And her business has just grown by word of mouth, but she's got like a lot of money and a lot of things going for her and like a great marriage and all these things. And when I finally talked to her about it, she actually didn't want people to feel jealous. And that's why she doesn't want to be on social media. And I was like, you know what? Good for you. I was like, that's like, I wish like more and more people would have that kind of grace and humility. And it is very important to protect ourselves when things are going right for us. Like, I don't want to get like the evil eye energy, which is an actual energetic, download that people can kind of like receive. And it's not healthy to get that energy, or to give it. And we can't always help ourselves. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just like was thinking about what you said and thinking about that topic. It's kind of like the flip side to receiving feedback and criticism. It's like also knowing when not to put it out there. Even the video I showed my dad, like I didn't have to fucking show him that. He didn't, it was no reason. It was almost as if I needed to exercise something. But like once maybe to be more mindful about what we put out and then be ready to put it out there.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. Well, wherever you are on your journey of receiving feedback or criticism or sharing and offering up your experiences with others, we hope that this episode has let you know that you're not alone if it's not easy. And that, it's just something to continue to strengthen, a muscle to strengthen, and also to let yourself feel it. Like if you get your feelings hurt and you want to cry, like, yes, let yourself cry and let it out. And don't suppress those emotions. Don't suppress any of that stuff inside your body. Like smash a coconut or break something, a dish or whatever, pop a balloon. Share with somebody that does get it, that will support you, that will love and support you. Tell them that you need, a hug and just to feel loved. Think that we should close it out here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So if you're just now joining us, we like to close out each episode with the daily W, which is one win, one wow, and one wish. And so my win for the day so far is going to be that I have allowed myself to feel and express emotions that have come up for me, and even to exercise them out of me through some shaking, through some yelling, like just screaming, like, like getting it out. And also, just through feeling it. And that's a big win because there's been certain emotions for me that didn't feel safe or appropriate. So I would try to downplay them or not acknowledge them, just kind of hold them in. And I'm working on that every day, and I'm getting better at it every day, really validating my feelings, my emotions, and feeling them. And my wow is going to be that I'm really grateful for the partnership that I'm in, that it is a safe container where I can share and communicate and express my feelings. And he can also. And then we can come together and like laugh and be done with it.
I agree. Witnessing a relationship for these past couple of years, it's like really, really, really beautiful. And thank you for modeling that for the rest of us. And then my wish is going to also be kind of aligned with everything we're talking about. I'm going to wish for myself to continue to build this inner well of resilience and inner strength, to know unconditionally my worth, know my beauty, know that I am loved and lovable and loving, and not to be shaken in the presence of people who don't see those things. for it to be unwavering. That is my wish.
I'm wishing that for you and for me and for everyone. Yes,
Amen.
may we all feel that.
Awesome.
Beautiful. So elegantly put.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's a wrap. We hope that you all have an amazing day and that after listening to this episode, it is so much brighter.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're on all the streaming platforms. Share, like, get the brighter word out. Let's make everyone's days brighter.
Look at our Instagram, TikTok. Check out check out all of the new posts that we are doing that are so beautifully designed.
That Chelsea worked so hard on, and we both working hard on.
We work on them together. Yeah.
Please.
So
awesome.
All right.
Till next time. Bye.